Hey guys, another beautiful day today. It's sunny and like summer. It's the first day of summer, so I guess it's supposed to be like that. The rest of the week isn't looking so pretty, so I figured I would come out and go for a walk, take the dog for a walk along the river, and enjoy the sun while it's out, and just chat with you guys about some stuff that's happening in my life. Some things I'm thinking about mulling over, and maybe you should be thinking about them sooner in your sobriety or your health journey, or your addiction recovery, or your mental health recovery. Maybe you should be thinking about these things. Let's see here if I can give you a video of the river while I talk. I'm just going to sit on this chit, and that way I'm not wobbling around if I'm on this bench. So what I've been thinking about basically for years now, few years, I've been thinking about community, and I want to feel like I'm part of a community, like I'm part of something, like actually have friends you can go visit, and things to do, and just be invited out. My girlfriend Nicole, that's now moved away, last week on Monday or Tuesday she left, and I've been asking her when we were together if we could go to church, or we could join some kind of a community organization that would help us make friends and have that community. And she was very much against church for sure, and she didn't really want to be a part of any of that. Now I know she complained about the same thing as me, of not having that feeling of community, but she didn't want to try anything new. She didn't want to go and try this or visit these people. She didn't want to let her biases go against the church and religion. And just for all clarity here, for all of you, I don't think that my God that I believe in, my higher power, the big kahuna as I call him, I don't think I see the Creator the same way as other people see the Creator. So, and that's okay. All of us are supposed to see our Creator in a different way. There's no set vision, or God doesn't have a body. He's everywhere, or it's everywhere, and it's probably female, or because to give birth to the earth, to give birth to us, to give birth to the world, the universe, that's usually a female thing. So I won't get too far into that, but this community. So when I was drinking and using drugs, I had a community, right? They were my fellow addicts that were drinking and using drugs with me, and we were really tight. We would be together all the time. We'd do all kinds of stuff together. When I quit that, I lost that community. And a lot of times they say AA is your community. That's your new community. But AA is, or NA, AA in a lot of areas, like the small town I'm in, the surrounding towns around me, AA has lost its community also. There's a lot of online meetings, but there's not a lot of, potlucks, going to the beach together, hanging out together, going to somebody's house for board game night, or that stuff doesn't exist that like in the area I'm in for AA. And from what I hear, that doesn't exist in almost every AA group in Manitoba, right? AA has lost its community. The town I live in has lost its community. I've been here for over a year. I've run the concession stand at the rink, the ice rink this winter. I do work in the community. I volunteer in the community. Not one person has invited me or Nicole over for lunch, supper, dinner, coffee, anything. So there's no community. I don't feel like I'm part of this community in any way. And that's the same when I lived in Roblin, just half an hour west of me. I lived there for 15 years. I was never invited out for supper or lunch or coffee or anything, ever. Not once by anyone there. Sorry. One family did once. But they drank a lot, so I didn't feel like going back, you know. And I think once they figured out I didn't drink, they didn't invite me over anymore, right? So I didn't have community. And then when we moved to the Okanagan, there wasn't any community either. It was just me and Nicole and our dogs and our cat. She had met a few ladies from going to some stuff. I met a few guys at work, but I mean, we never went out for coffee or lunch or anything together. Never. So there's just no community. So I'm craving that community, and I'm still here in Manitoba. Nicole went back to Penticton because she doesn't want to be here. I don't really blame her. Like, there isn't much here. Other than I own a house, an acreage, and I own half of this house that I'm staying in Grandview. I mean, that's what keeps me here, right? My mom's in Roblin. She's retired in Roblin from Selkirk. I mean, that's the only reason I'm here. There's not much work. And the work there is low pay. Everybody just barely gets by. There's the odd rich farmer, there's a bunch of richer, wealthier farmers, but they hang around with other wealthy farmers. They don't hang around with the average person. It's very strange. It's very troubling that that's our world right now, that there is no community. And like, I want community so bad, I broke down, and after 34 years, I actually went to church this morning. And that's what brought on this video about community, is I went to church this morning, and that's the first time in 34 years that I've gone to church. And there's a reason for that. I've wanted to go to church for a few years. It took me a long time after I sobered up to forgive the church that I was raised in, the people there that did some pretty awful things to each other and to kids. Like, the pastor was a molester. I didn't know that, but it came out later on that he was molesting like 6 or 7 of the kids, young boys in the church. I think because I had a big mouth, he didn't do that with me, thank God. But just that, and the money was always an issue in the church, and just you know, when I first started going to that church, it's an Alliance church in Selkirk, Manitoba. It was a wee little church, and it was all a bunch of working class people, carpenters and welders and electricians and just normal people that worked in the community. And we had a great community in our church. We went camping. We had youth day camps. We had canoe trips. We went to the beach almost every Sunday after church. We would go to the beach as a church, like almost the entire church. And we would do these things and have a great time. And this is before I knew of the molesting and all that kind of stuff. I was just living in the church. And oh, I hope this guy's not coming this way. Maybe he is. And I'm gonna have to pause this. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that, guys. The guy's just grooming the trail here. They really look after this trail. It's pretty cool. So back to community. So in the church, we had a great time. I mean, through my youth, early teens, things are really good in our church. Even when my addiction started, it was still pretty good. And then some other people joined the church. Some of the business owners and wealthier people of Selkirk, because our church had this reputation of being a very close, community-minded church. And so other people started to join, which is no big deal. It's just they brought with it a different way of looking at the church. So they wanted a new church. They wanted a bigger church. They wanted land so they could expand on it. So that became the driving force of the church, not the community base to it, not the fun times that we had, going to the beach and all that kind of stuff. That was gone, right? Once they joined and we talked about getting this new church and we started saving up for the land, that's all it was the land. And then, so we got this land, and then we built this church, and then the real problem started. As most of you know that have gone to church, they ask that if you're a member of the church, if you're going every Sunday or almost every Sunday and you're a member and you want to keep that church alive, that you give 10% of your income, which isn't a big deal. I mean, if you're going to be in that church and a part of that community, then you got to keep the doors open, right? We do that with AA or NA. We have to support ourselves, and so does the church, right? So I don't mind that we give 10% of our income. That's perfectly fine. But what happened was the business owners and the wealthier people were saying to the other people, like my family, oh, well, we give more. We give more. You guys have to give more, right? We're giving so much more than you. And it became this competition on who was giving more. And it just, again, it destroyed the community. There was no more beaches. There was no more canoe trips. There was no more anything like that. It became like a business. And it was so disgusting that I didn't want to go back. And so I've stayed out of the church for 34 years until today. I refuse to go. Even for funerals. No, I'll go to the funeral after. I'm not going to no fucking church. Right? But I'm reminded when I work the steps that we have to give up our old ideas. We have to forgive people because they're sick too. So I learned, right, in the last few years now that I've been wanting to go back to church, wanting to do this community thing, that I have to forgive those people that destroyed the church that I loved because they're sick. And their addiction isn't alcohol or drugs. Their addiction is money. Right? I'll let that sink in again. I'll say it one more time. Their addiction is money. That's all they can think about. And it's unfortunate for them. You know? Yeah, okay, if you don't have enough, yeah, you're stressed out. You know what I mean? But at a certain point, you got to just say, okay, well, I got enough to feed myself and pay the bills. And the rest is up to God, right? The rest is for Him. The rest is for me to do what I can for my community. And that's something that we just don't have anymore, right? Everybody is so transfixed on the phone, on the screen. It's just sad. It's really sad, you know? Today I came home from church and the neighbors said, "Oh, are you guys moving?" And I said, "No." I said, "Nicole moved. I'm staying." "Oh, well, we were so glad, but we're glad you're staying. You know, we really like having you here." And my response was, "Why? Because I cut the grass?" And they laughed and they said yes, and then they walked in the house. Right? They didn't invite me over for coffee or to visit or to get to know each other or anything like that. It's just very sad, right? When I went to that church today, and I went to that particular church because in 2018 or 2019, I think it was 2018, I had done a step 4 and 5 in Dauphin, and that pastor was the one that did my step 5. And he did a really good job. He said to me, he said, "You sound really lonely." And I said, yes, I am. And he said, "Well, you should come to church and I'll help you find a partner. You know, there's lots of single women in our church that would love to have you as part of their life, and you really need to come to church." And I thought about that when he said that, but I was still hurting inside from my old church, right? And I still couldn't forgive the church. You know, I've forgiven God a long time ago. I know God's been with me for my entire life, but I could not forgive the church. It took me, you know, through 2020, sitting in my sauna, like I've said before, I came to a lot of recollections and I really forgave a lot of people and a lot of things. And one of them was the church. I came to the realization that those people are sick, just like I said, and my family's sick, and all this stuff is sick. Pickle, stay out of there. Stay out of the water. And so I forgave at that point. But when he offered for me to come there, I said no. And so now I'm back here after all these years. It's 2020, 2019, 2018. I did that. And that step 4 and 5. And I figured, you know what? If I'm going to go to a church, I'm going to go to his church. And I'm going to see what his church is like. And so I did. And I actually started to tear up in there because it reminded me so much of our old church. People of all colors and creeds and backgrounds were there, and everybody seemed to really enjoy being there together. And I know a lot of that is fakeness. It's just a Sunday thing, you know. Those people are not like that once Monday comes around, but it felt really good to be there and part of that church community. I don't know if I'm going to keep going to that church. I don't know what I'm going to do exactly. I know that that's what I'm searching for, is some kind of a community. I've been alone for a very long time, and even in my relationship with my ex, I was very alone, and she was very alone, and she just didn't see it. I saw it, I felt it, and I really want a community. So I'm going to be looking for a community. I'm hoping to start somewhat of a community online with you guys, because that's just how we can start, you know. That being said, we can only do so much online, and the rest you really need to be in person. So for those of you out there that are, again, starting this journey of sobriety or mental health or physical health, I implore you to go out there and find a community. I know it's tough. Like, it was really tough for me to walk into that church today by myself, right? And it was really tough for me to stay there and eat lunch, because they had lunch prepared for Father's Day. It was really tough for me to do that by myself. I wanted to leave so bad. I wanted to run. But I kept telling myself, this is how you get over that loneliness. This is how you get over that shyness. This is how you create the life that you want. You know, if I want to create this new life and have this great life, then I have to put myself out there, and I have to put myself in awkward positions and with people that I don't maybe agree with all the time, and all that stuff. I have to do that. Otherwise, I'm just going to shut myself in like a hermit, and I'm never going to find that community that I want. So yeah, go out there and find that community. You know what? AA is a good community if you can get in the right group, and that's why it's important too to go to different groups, even in different communities, and just see what they have to offer. Because not every AA group is the same. They're autonomous. They're completely different, each one. So one may click with you and one might not, right? So, and same thing with NA. You got to go around and you have to look for that. Because that's what they're there for, is they're there for support. But they're also there as a community. Once you quit drinking and using drugs, or you want to change your mental attitude towards life, any of that kind of stuff, you need to find other people that are doing the same thing. And once you find your higher power, then you got to find people that have a higher power. Because if you're hanging around with people that don't believe in a higher power, I mean, it's not going to work, right? It's just not going to work. You're not going to feel comfortable. They're not going to feel comfortable. It's a really weird feeling. And I've felt it long enough. I'm ready for a community. I'm ready to figure out where I want to be next. I mean, I own this acreage out here. I own this house. It doesn't mean I need to stay here, right? It really doesn't. I miss BC for the sunshine and the weather. Summer in Manitoba is very short. Like I've said before, probably 2 months. You know, it's going to be 2 months this year for sure, because January or July and August, and then September starts to get cool again. So it's going to be a very short summer here. And that's what I miss about British Columbia. I don't miss the cost of living out there. It's astronomical for it to actually just exist out there. But I do miss the weather. But I really want a community. So here's again me saying to you guys, go out and find a community once you sober up or straighten out. Or if you want to change your mental attitude, you're going to have to go and look for other people to hang around with. Can't hang around with the old same fools that you did that made the problem or helped you with creating your problem or have the same problem as you, right? Because they're just going to drag you back in. With that, you guys, one more look at the riv here. It's nice and relaxing. There's a lot of wood ticks out here. Like, fuck, I just picked off 3 or 4. I'm sure the dog is covered in them. So we're gonna walk and get out of here, and I'll talk to you guys in a day or two whenever I can get around to another video. Thanks, guys.